Into this, I really want to challenge you to think about the impossibly long chain of ancestors that had to survive just to get to you. It's like a giant puzzle where if any single one of those thousands of people had tripped at the wrong moment, gotten eaten by something incredibly toothy, or simply failed to reproduce, you wouldn't be here. Literally, no way. The mathematical odds against your very existence are just staggering.
Consider the stark contrast here. On one hand, you've got modern you, probably equipped with a comfortable snack addiction and, a mild caffeine dependency, just to get through the afternoon, right? But on the other hand, there's your ancient ancestor, a person with no name, no shoes, and absolutely no idea that you would eventually exist. Their entire daily agenda basically consisted of squatting in the dirt, chewing on a beetle for a little protein, and trying really, really hard not to meet a gruesome death before sundown. Which brings us to the defining concept of our explainer today. You see, you aren't just lucky. You are the direct byproduct of what we can call a violent coincidence. You exist solely because 1,000 people before you didn't die when they absolutely, undeniably should have. It's wild to think about. Your existence relies on generation after generation of incredibly stubborn biology, just refusing to give up against all odds. To truly wrap our heads around this, we're going to walk through the vast timeline of human history. We're counting down 5 of the deadliest periods, starting from, bad but survivable, all the way up to you might as well write your will at birth. It's an unbelievable journey from the era of mammoths and cave lions through to medieval chainmail and finally back to our modern, comfortable era of snacks and powdered wigs. Number 5 and 4, the environmental gauntlet. We are kicking off our top 5 deadliest countdown by looking at how nature itself actively tried to wipe us off the map. Coming in at number 5 is the Ice Age, specifically the last glacial maximum around 20,000 years ago. And let me tell you, the Earth was not exactly a cozy place. Average global temperatures dropped by 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 6 degrees Celsius, which turned massive chunks of North America, Europe, and Asia into this frozen wasteland smothered by ice sheets up to 2 miles thick. 2 miles! Finding food wasn't just scarce, it was practically a distant rumor. And this brilliantly illustrates just how wild the daily survival routine actually was back then. Your house, basically a mammoth bone hut, or maybe a cave you shared with 40 freezing relatives. Dinner meant taking a sharpened stick and trying to hunt down a 6-ton, school bus-sized woolly mammoth that, let's be honest, was actively trying to crush you. You'd also spend a good chunk of your time sprinting away from Pantheris balea, which was one of the largest wildcats in history. Oh, and if starvation or a giant predator didn't get you, a simple infected cut probably would. Why? Because your only medical care was chewing on some random plant and just hoping for the best. No antibiotics here, folks. But here's the kicker. Solving one problem simply unleashed entirely new ones. Coming in at number 4 is the dawn of agriculture, roughly 10,000 years ago. Humans essentially got tired of chasing mammoths all day and decided, hey, let's bring the food to us. So they traded in their nomadic hunting lifestyle to settle down in permanent villages, planting crops like wheat, barley, and lentils. There is a really dark irony here, though. The expectation of farming was a stable, easy life. But the reality? Humanity accidentally made life significantly harder and a whole lot unhealthier. Settling down close together unleashed an absolute buffet of new problems. Diseases started spreading like wildfire, and that shift to a crop-heavy diet, it meant less protein, severe vitamin deficiencies, and teeth that quite literally rotted right out of their faces. Plus, all it took was one bad drought, a random flood, or a swarm of hungry locusts, and your entire village simply starved to death. Moving into the top 3, the human and biological horrors. As we move into our top 3, the threats shift from the freezing, harsh environment to killers that were either terrifyingly fast or, worse, completely invisible. At number 3, we have the Mongol invasions of the 13th century. Imagine being alive back then. If you saw a cloud of dust on the horizon, you had exactly 3 minutes to panic before your entire city was turned into a parking lot. Led by Genghis Khan, a guy who treated the concept of mercy like an absolute myth, this army carved out the largest contiguous land empire in human history, stretching all the way from China to Eastern Europe. Their strategy was brutal, and it was flawlessly executed. Show up incredibly fast, hit unimaginably hard, and leave absolutely nothing standing. I mean, they practically invented mobile warfare centuries before tanks were even a thought. Their horse archers could accurately hit targets from 300 yards away while riding at a full gallop. Just let that sink in. Entire populations were slaughtered. Ancient cities were totally erased from the map. And any survivors?
Well, they were frequently used as human shields for the very next battle.
I really want you to feel the sheer staggering weight of this next number. 10%. Historians estimate that the Mongol invasions wiped out around 10% of the entire global population. 1 in 10 human beings on the planet just gone. And keep in mind, this was at a time when the world population was already relatively tiny to begin with.
Which brings us to number 2. In 1347, Europe received a very unexpected and incredibly deadly package from Central Asia, delivered by some highly motivated fleas and rats. We're talking about the Black Death. Caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, this plague tore through towns and cities like an unstoppable biological wildfire. Living in this era meant survival was pure dumb luck. It was basically a medieval lottery. You have to remember, there was absolutely zero concept of personal hygiene back then. You could catch the plague from a handshake, sharing a cup, or literally just breathing the same air as an infected person. And the symptoms? Horrific. We're talking giant swollen lymph nodes, raging fevers, and vomiting blood, which was usually followed by death in a matter of days. And what was the top-tier medical response at the time? Doctors walking around in those creepy bird masks stuffed with flowers, effectively trying to vibe check the plague away. Yep, that was peak medieval science, going up against a lethal, invisible killer.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer, terrifying scale of the devastation. It is estimated that somewhere between 30 to 60% of Europe's entire population was wiped out in just a few short years. Entire villages were permanently abandoned, and massive economies completely collapsed overnight. It was a near-apocalyptic scenario. And finally, the number 1 threat, the near deletion. We've seen freezing ice, horrific disease, and brutal war. But honestly, nothing compares to what's next. The number 1 threat in human history, the Toba supervolcano eruption, which went off around 74,000 years ago. Listen, this wasn't just your standard volcano. This was an explosion of mind-boggling proportions. When Toba erupted, it launched over 670 cubic miles of ash and debris straight into the sky. To put that into perspective for you, that is enough material to blanket the entire landmass of the United States. And this triggered a truly terrifying chain reaction. The eruption threw so much thick ash into the atmosphere that the sun was literally blocked out for an estimated 6 to 10 years. Imagine a decade without a clear sky. This caused a devastating volcanic winter, crashing global temperatures by up to 27 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius. Plants withered away, animals starved to death, rivers dried up, and ecosystems worldwide completely collapsed. The entire planet was basically turned into a dark, freezing graveyard. For early humans who were already struggling just to find enough daily calories, this event was completely catastrophic. It created an incredibly tight genetic bottleneck. Get this, it's estimated that the total human population on Earth shrank to fewer than 3,000 desperate individuals. Just 3,000. Imagine that. The entire future of humanity, every single person alive today, rested on the frail shoulders of a few thousand people surviving in total darkness, freezing, starving, and constantly wondering if today was the last day anyone would ever see the sun. Which brings us to the miracle of you. But against literally all odds, a few stubborn, desperate humans managed to endure. They didn't give up when everything else around them did. Which brings this entire narrative fully back to you watching this right now. So the crucial point is this. You exist because 1,000 people before you didn't die when they should have. Through freezing ice ages, agricultural disasters, rapid mobile armies, bacterial wildfires, and a literal supervolcano that blotted out the sun, your specific genetic line held on. You are the resulting miracle of immense resilience, stubborn biology, and some extremely violent luck. Which leaves us with this final, awe-inspiring thought to take away from our explainer today. You are sitting here right now solely because your ancestors fought off mammoths, survived the plague, and endured dark volcanic winters just to pass the baton down to you. Knowing the utterly impossible gauntlet they survived, how will you spend your miracle of a life today before natural selection eventually catches up? Think about it.